Imagine you wake up one morning and nothing in your life has changed. Same job, same salary, same bank balance. But somehow, the phone you were planning to buy costs more than it did last week. Fuel at the pump costs more. Even that vacation abroad you were saving for suddenly needs a bigger budget. You didn't do anything wrong. Your country's currency did. Somewhere, a decision was made. Not by you, not even by your government talking about you directly, that quietly moved the value of your money. And here's the strange part. Sometimes a country does this on purpose. It lets its own currency get weaker, not by accident, but by choice. Which raises an obvious question. Why would any country want its own money to be worth less?
Welcome to the Reserve Code. Today, we're getting into something economists call a currency war. And despite the name, nobody's shooting at anybody. Instead, countries are quietly using the value of their own money as a tool to compete with each other. By the end of this video, you'll understand what that actually means, why a weaker currency isn't always bad news, why it isn't always good news either, and how something that sounds like it belongs on a trading floor in New York can end up changing the price of your groceries. Let's start from the very beginning, because this only makes sense once the basics click. A currency is just money. Dollars, rupees, yen, euros, whatever your country uses.
An exchange rate is simply how much of one currency you need to buy another. So if one US dollar equals 85 Indian rupees today, that's the exchange rate. Now, say that same dollar starts costing 90 rupees a few months later. The rupee has gotten weaker. It now takes more rupees to buy the same $1. Here's why that matters to an actual person. Say you want to buy something made in America, maybe a laptop. If the rupee weakens, you now need more rupees to pay for the same laptop because the price is set in dollars first. That laptop just got more expensive for you, even though the laptop itself didn't change at all.
But flip it around. Say you're a business in India selling something to a buyer in America. If the rupee weakens, the dollars that buyer pays you convert into more rupees than before. Your revenue just went up without you selling a single extra unit. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If a weaker currency means exporters earn more and their products become cheaper for foreign buyers, a government might actually want its currency to stay weak on purpose. Not by accident of the market, but through deliberate policy.
Central banks have a few ways to do this. They can cut interest rates, which tends to make a currency less attractive to foreign investors and pushes its value down. They can also buy up large amounts of foreign currency using their own currency, which increases the supply of their own money in the market and pushes its value lower. Both moves sound technical, but the goal is simple. Make exports cheaper, make the country more competitive, and give local industries a boost without having to build a single new factory. This isn't a new idea. During the Great Depression in the 1930s, several countries abandoned the gold standard, which had tied their currencies to a fixed value of gold, and allowed their currencies to fall instead, hoping cheaper exports would help their economies recover. Once one country did it, trading partners who wanted to stay competitive started doing the same thing, and it spread. Many economists see this period as the first real large-scale currency war, even though nobody called it that at the time. The actual phrase currency war only became widely used much more recently, in 2010, when Brazil's finance minister at the time publicly said a currency war had broken out between major economies, accusing countries of devaluing their currencies to gain an edge in trade. That comment stuck because it captured something real. Countries genuinely were adjusting monetary policy in ways that pushed their currencies down, and it was putting pressure on other economies, whose currencies were rising as a result.
Now, let's talk about how this actually spreads between countries, because it rarely stays contained to just one place. Say country A allows its currency to weaken. Its exports instantly look cheaper to foreign buyers. Factories in country A get more orders. Meanwhile,
country B, which sells similar products, starts losing customers to country A simply because of the exchange rate, not because their products got worse. Country B now faces pressure. Its own exporters are struggling, and jobs tied to those industries start feeling it too. So what does country B do? Often, it responds the same way, nudging its own currency down too, trying to stay competitive. And if a third country is watching this happen and doesn't want to lose out either, it might do the same thing. This is how a single country's currency decision can ripple outward and turn into something bigger, without anyone ever formally declaring anything.
Here's a real current example that shows this isn't just theory. In 2026, the Japanese yen weakened to around $162 per US dollar, its lowest level in roughly 40 years, driven partly by a wide gap between US and Japanese interest rates and Japan's very high public debt. A weaker yen makes Japanese cars, electronics, and machinery cheaper for buyers overseas, which is good news for Japanese exporters. But it also makes imported energy and raw materials more expensive inside Japan, since Japan imports most of its fuel. This is exactly the trade-off a currency war creates. One part of the economy benefits, while another part quietly absorbs higher costs. But here's an important correction to something people often assume. A weaker currency doesn't automatically guarantee more exports.
Analysts covering India's rupee have pointed out that even when the rupee has weakened, Indian exports haven't always risen the way the simple theory predicts, partly because a broader global slowdown or trade tensions can cancel out the currency advantage, and because a weaker rupee also raises the cost of imported raw materials that many exporters depend on. This shows a weaker currency is a tool, not a guarantee. It can help, but only if the surrounding economic conditions cooperate. So why doesn't any government just openly say, we're trying to win a currency war? Because officially, most major economies have agreed not to. Under the International Monetary Fund's rules, member countries are barred from manipulating their exchange rates to gain an unfair trade advantage over others. So instead of announcing a currency war, governments describe the exact same actions using softer language, supporting exporters, maintaining price stability, or boosting competitiveness. The mechanism is the same. The label is just friendlier.
Now let's bring this back to you, because this is the part that actually matters. If you don't trade currencies, don't own stocks, and don't work in finance, does any of this even touch your life? It does, just quietly. When your country's currency weakens, imported goods, phones, cars, medicines, machinery parts, tend to get more expensive. Fuel often costs more too, since most countries import at least some of their energy, and that pushes up transport and delivery costs across the board, which eventually shows up in the price of everyday things at the store. A foreign holiday you were planning suddenly costs more in your local currency. And if you work for a company that depends on imported materials, a weaker currency can squeeze that company's costs, which sometimes trickles down into hiring decisions or salary growth.
On the other hand, if you work in an export-focused industry, textiles, IT services, manufacturing, a weaker currency can actually be good news for your company, and by extension, your job security, or even your bonus. That's the uncomfortable truth about currency wars. They don't help or hurt everyone equally. They create winners and losers inside the very same country at the very same time. Zoom out even further, and currencies connect to something bigger than any one country's trade numbers. The US dollar plays a unique role in the world. It's the currency most commonly used to price global trade, held in central bank reserves, and used to settle a large share of international transactions. Because of that, moves in the dollar's value don't just affect the United States. They ripple through nearly every other economy that trades in dollars or holds dollar reserves.
When the dollar weakens or strengthens, it can shift the entire balance of currency wars happening elsewhere, sometimes without those countries doing anything at all.
This is really about countries trying to protect their own economic future. Jobs, growth, industries, in a world where everyone is competing for the same buyers. Nobody wants to be the country left behind while its neighbors' factories are humming and its own sit quiet. So here's the honest takeaway. A currency war isn't fought with weapons, and it isn't always even acknowledged out loud. It's fought with interest rate decisions, central bank interventions, and quiet policy choices, each one designed to protect a country's exports and jobs, sometimes at the cost of making life a little more expensive for its own citizens buying imported goods. And because currencies are connected across the entire world, one country's decision rarely stays contained to just that one country.
If this made you look at exchange rate news a little differently, give the video a like, share it with someone who's never thought twice about currency headlines, and subscribe if you want more of these hidden mechanisms explained simply. And I'd genuinely like to know, do you think countries should keep trying to weaken their currencies for an edge, or does it end up creating more problems than it solves? Drop your take in the comments. I read them. Thank you for watching The Reserve Code. Until then, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.